Today I noticed while driving the wife's car that the dash cam at Auto-vox just would freeze. Run for a while and then the picture would just freeze and it would lock up. So I'm thinking, okay, bad SD card, right? Wrong. It's not. The SD card is fine. It's a problem with the camera. So we're going to take this one apart and see if we can find out why it's not working and see if we can get it fixed. So this is a dash cam I had in my other car, and it's decided that it's not going to work. I'll show you what it does if I can duplicate it here. When it powers up, oh, might help if I turn on the power. Okay, when it powers up, it'll come on and start recording, and then either go off or freeze. Looks like it froze. There we go. Now it's doing what it's doing. Okay, it's on. And after about 14 seconds, the picture freezes. Or in this case, it just shut off. I don't know whether my power supply doesn't have enough juice for this thing or not. It should have enough power. It's only drawing 0.4 amps. But that's what it's been doing. It doesn't record, it just reboots. Or sometimes it'll just freeze and the picture will just freeze completely and so forth. Now I've tried a factory reset, and even with it's unplugged, it's going to do this. Turn off camera. It'll just do this reboot bit over and over again. Now, first I thought it was the SD card, so I tried a different SD card in it, but it's doing exactly the same thing. So there's obviously a problem with the camera. Don't know what it is, probably not repairable, but I figured I would pull it apart and see whether maybe the internal battery in it is getting weak or something and it's throwing errors. I don't even know how to take this one apart, or even whether it does come apart. I don't see any screws in it, so this one might be a unit that won't come apart. There are some screws on the mounting plate here. Curious as to whether removing these ones will let me open the camera up or not, or whether these just hold the plate on. This has been in service now, I guess, for about 3 years, and it's just started acting up recently. Okay, so that comes off, and there's nothing behind that. Okay, I guess that wasn't what holds the camera together. Okay, well, let's look for some other ways to get into here. I don't know whether this pops off or not. The cover might pop off the screen here. It does have a touch screen, this one. But I get the feeling that this digitizer has to pop off. It's attached on this side. Okay, alright, now there's the screws there. So the digitizer lifts off, sort of, and then there's screws along here. So let's remove these screws. See if we can get into the camera a little bit easier. Something I should point out is that when I tried to play the files that were on the SD card, no, they were all there, but I couldn't open them. VLC said that every file was corrupted. I'm hoping it's something, relatively simple and that it can be resolved. Otherwise, it'll just be turfed and a different one will be put in. I've got other dash cams, but this one's kind of nice because it's a dual dash cam, so it records front and back. Guess that's not a screw there. This should, I think, release the front cover. What I'm curious is it the battery that's going weak and having a low voltage and causing problems? that's what I don't know. I have no idea what the problem is, but that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the battery is causing problems. The funny thing is, it'll stay turned on if there's no SD card in it. It'll stay on. It's when it tries to write to the SD card that the problems seem to happen. So it might be related to the SD card. There may be a fault in the card reader or in the circuitry. Well, you can figure out how to get this display out of here without breaking anything. Looks like it just lifts out. Okay, there we go. So that lifts out just like that. So now I've got the display released. We can lift up this connector and unplug the display and the digitizer. There's the display, and we'll do the same for the digitizer, as I don't want to damage it. Okay, the display and the digitizer now are separated from the rest of the camera. Now, let's see if I can pop this board out. Some more screws that hold it in place. There is obviously a battery on here. And that's what I'm wondering, is whether this battery has gotten weak, and that's why it's acting up. Could be a connection also on the SD card, because as I say, it tends to stay on. Oh, these are not Phillips screws. These are smaller ones, so I got to get another bit here for that. As I was mentioning, though, it seems to stay on when there's no SD card in it. It just, when it starts to write, it will typically run for about 15-14 seconds, and then it locks up, almost like it's trying to write to the card, and when it tries to write to the card, it can't, and everything just locks up at that point. Possibly. So it may be a connection problem. It might be a failure of something on the camera itself, on the board. We won't know until we get this thing apart and try to examine it. Yeah, it's coming out. It's just not easy. A little bit bigger Torx. These are all like little micro Torx bits. Okay, now this circuit board should lift out unless there's any other screws. Let's just see if it'll pop out. Which it does. And what does it have in here for a battery? It must have a battery in here somewhere. Oh yeah, there's a battery right in front here. This other connector that's plugged in is for the sensor on the front. See if I can pop this battery out of here. It is just a little lithium battery, and it doesn't appear to be puffed up or anything. But we'll check the voltage on it and see whether it's got its full charge, or whether that battery is weak. Because it could be, a lot of times these cameras, the batteries will go, and then the batteries will fail, and the cameras will do really weird things. So it might be the battery itself is just toast. So let's check the voltage on the battery and see whether it's got a charge. And it has 3.8 volts, so the battery itself is okay. So not a battery issue that's causing this problem. But I think what I should do is disconnect the battery, and we'll inspect the connections here for the SD card. See whether one of those is bad. Not a heck of a lot one can do on a camera like this. I mean, there's really very little that can be done on them. A power button and a reset switch over here. Let me disconnect that battery so I'm working on it with no power. Remove the negative terminal and then the positive. It's like the battery seems to be an afterthought on this, doesn't it? They have a plug there for it, but they didn't utilize the plug. They just hardwired it in. Okay, the one and only thing I really want to check on this is I want to check the connections here on the SD card just to make sure that there's nothing that's come loose from just years of being bumped around. Get my magnifiers on so I can get a better look at it and see if there's any of these connections that look questionable. Maybe resolder them just for the hell of it. I might just do that. There's not much else on here that one can do. Right, everything's all system on chip basically. But the fact that the camera powers up and only crashes when it goes right to the memory card kind of points towards possibly a connection problem. I'm just going to put some flux on here, a little bit of flux I think, and then just try to reflow these connections. A couple of them look maybe a little questionable. If I can get the camera to zoom in here. What do you think? They look okay. That one on the right looks maybe, this one right down here looks possibly like that one might be bad. See, it looks like a crack. If you look right there, it looks like a crack in the solder right there. Right, that just kind of looks a little bit off. So I'm going to resolder that and see what happens. So first I'll put a dab of flux on, just to help the solder wet a bit. And I get in with my fine tip iron and just reflow. Geez, not much room here to work, is there? There's just no room to work. Talk about micro soldering. That is just ridiculous. So I make sure I don't have any shorts on anything in here. So I touched up the SD card slot. We'll reconnect the power and see if this thing will turn on. Obviously connect the display and everything, but reconnect the battery wire. I guess put a couple of the screws back in to hold the board in place. I won't put the stripped one back in, obviously. It was a pain in the ass to get out, so not necessary. Extra screws, as they say, right? Okay, I'll reconnect the digitizer and the LCD screen, and we'll see whether anything happens. I'm not really expecting anything really to happen here. Put the LCD screen on first. Actually, I can power it up without the digitizer. I should be able to power it up without the digitizer on, but we'll get the LCD screen in first. Okay, plug that in. And lock it in place. And we'll just see whether the unit will actually power up when I apply power to it. Obviously my connector's not all the way in. It hasn't shut down yet, but I don't have an SD card in it at this moment in time, so let's just try putting an SD card in and just see whether it will record for more than 14 seconds. And if it does, then maybe we have solved part of the problem. Alright, let's see if it'll record now. I'll deal with that reseating that connector if it records for more than 14 seconds. Nope, still shutting down. Now, it might be the power supply too that I'm using. It might not have enough power. I'll try a different power supply on this one. Will this one record, or will it shut down? Still doing the same thing with this power supply. I think this dash cam is shot. Try doing a factory reset. Wherever the button is. Take the memory card out and try booting it up again. It's certainly behaving like you would expect if the battery was dead. I wonder if that battery is just dropping off under load. I mean, just the way it behaves is just, it's like a dead battery type behavior. But yet it tested okay under no load. But we'll test it under when it's connected and see what the voltage is. 3.8 volts should be. Oh, maybe the battery is shot. You know, that might be a bad battery, but we can test that because I can just hook up any lithium cell to this, and if it doesn't die, then we know that it's the battery that's at fault, because the way it's behaving, it's behaving like the battery is bad, and that's a big possibility that it is the battery that's at fault. So we'll just disconnect that. I'll find another lithium battery to substitute. So I got a newer. This came out of an old e-cigarette that I found tossed over my fence from the neighbor's kids that use them and try to hide them from their parents and toss them over my fence so that they don't get caught with them. So let's hook this one up and just see whether this will do anything different. See, the camera should run on battery without even having to be plugged in. Put the SD card in and just see if it will record anything. If it will record, then that's a good sign. Okay. Battery's connected. Turn it on and see if it will actually turn on and record. And it's recording. We'll just see how long it goes for. If it goes for more than 14 seconds, which is what it was going for before, then I'll have to go down and pick up a new battery. And there's 14 seconds, and it's still recording. I think we had a battery fault on this one. If only there was a way I could stuff this battery in. A little bit big. I don't think it'll fit in the case. But we've been going 30 seconds now, and it's still recording. So I think we got the problem solved. I had a lithium cell that went weak, so now I'm going to have to pull this thing apart again, pull that lithium cell out, and go find another lithium cell that I can stuff in there. I'd make it work. I had a lithium cell I could have put in, but I ended up shoehorning it into a little MP3 player. But yeah, it's working. It's working. Excellent. See, it has not shut down. It's still going strong. There, that's better. Now let's get a better picture. Well, it appears to be recording. Excellent. Excellent. Now I just have to go and find a battery for it. Take a look at the recording that it's made. See if it's recording okay. It looks like it's recording on here. It's been going now for 42 seconds, so I think everything's okay. There, that's better. There, that's better. Now let's get a better picture. Well, it appears to be recording. Excellent. Excellent. Now I just have to go and find a battery for it. Take a look at the recording that it's made. See if it's recording okay. It looks like it's recording on here. It's been going now for 42 seconds, so I think everything's okay. Okay, I've solved the problem on this one because it is recording. The picture is perfect. So now I just need to get that battery out so I can size it up and go and get another battery for it. So let's do that again. Let's pull this thing apart one more time, pull the battery out, and go get a new battery. So once again, I'll pop out the LCD screen. We'll disconnect the temporary battery that I've installed. And of course disconnect the positive wire from that so that nothing shorts out. This is a cell that came out of a vape pen. And I don't even care if I get one that's smaller capacity than this, as long as it fits in the case size that I'm looking for. So let me go find a new battery, and we'll get this little dash cam up and running again. Make my wife happy because it's in her car and she likes this one. It's got a front and a back camera. So I found another battery. This one's a little bit larger than the original one, but it's fairly close, right? The original one is the one in front here, and you can see it's a little bit wider. I think it probably will fit. There should be enough room in here, I think, for this one to fit in. Oh yeah, it's got enough room. So let's just trim the wires back here so that I can get it connected. Okay, put some tin on the wires here. Okay, I've got the new battery installed. Just stick it down in behind here. I don't think I have to really worry too much about putting. Oh, good, it fits perfectly. Excellent. Okay. Get the case back together, get the circuit board back in, and then I'll hook the wires up and make sure everything. This battery won't be charged, so it'll have to be charged up, I'm sure, before the camera will operate properly. It might have enough charge in it to make it turn on, but the fun part is just getting this circuit board in place. Getting everything to line up. There, I think that's in. If not, it's pretty close. It should drop in. There we go. Okay, a couple of screws in to hold it in place. Then I'll connect up the wires and I don't think that goes in there. That was one of the other ones that holds the case shut. Wonderful. Okay, we'll hook up the wires for the power. Let's check the voltage on the new battery. Plus 3.7. We're good. That's a 3.7 volt battery. Not that the digitizer is even really needed, because once it's set up, it's set. I guess to set the frequency and the file size and stuff, but once it's running, it really doesn't need this. There, I think it's in. Alright, that's in place. Now, the screen again. I'll just fire the camera up just to make sure that it works before putting everything in place. Yep, digitizer appears to be working. Yep, it's working. Okay. Now the screen can go in. And all the screws. It's funny, you use Phillips screws for this, but they use Torx for the stuff inside. Except for one, they used a Torx. Alright, the screws are in place. We'll just take the digitizer and put it back on. Re-stick it. It should stick okay, I think. And make sure it turns on. Oh, maybe I should plug it in. Battery doesn't have that much of a charge in it. There we go. Insert SD card. And when I tap on the screen. Okay, I'm just testing this little camera out now after repairing it on my messy desk. This is just in my office. My laptop is sitting here. Got some mini DVDs for my little mini DVD camera. A little thing right there. Yeah. So, it's all back together and it appears to be working okay now to put it back in the car where it belongs. But this is a recording after putting the camera all back together. Unplug the power and it should shut off after a few seconds. So pull the power cord out now and now it should shut off. After about 8 seconds it should stop recording. 3, 2,